Hey, everybody. So glad you could join us this morning. Get your coffee and join the conversation. I have a special guest with me today. A friend of mine, Ashley Lutz, is here with us. Good morning. How are you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing great. And how are you?
I'm good. I've got my coffee. That always helps.
Yes, coffee is a must, and especially first thing in the morning.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers, it's not morning for you, but it's morning for us. So you can join us in the conversation here. And I like to have the idea of just you're just joining us at the table or kitchen table, and it's just a conversation. So Ashley, where are you living now?
Well, right now I'm originally from Texas, and we moved it would be 3 years. We are in Florida, so outside of Orlando, and that's where we are, and that's where we have come alongside a couple ministries to help them. And my husband's part of Christ for All Nations. He's the director of the Evangelism Bootcamp. So that's the main one of the main
Can you
reasons
can
why
you
we
go
did the transition.
can you go back and explain what that ministry is? That's your husband's ministry.
So Christ for All Nations, it was Reinhard Bonnke's vision. I believe he started it in Germany, and one day he was like trying to do a crusade in Africa, and nobody was getting saved. And so he had like this vision of a blood washed Africa, like 4 nights in a row, like Africa shall be saved. And so that's kind of where Christ for All Nations was birthed out of. Is it's a you know um just their mission is Africa, and they go all over Africa and just have these huge crusades. And I believe he passed away maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and
Okay.
so he handed the mantle was for Daniel Kalenda. So that's where um they what they do is together they raised up, it's called the Evangelism Bootcamp, and they take people from all over the world, and they come for 3 months and they train them in evangelism so they can go out and do crusades. And because a lot of people are called to crusade evangelism, but they don't know how to be
Right.
activating it. So they help with that, and they train them. It's intense, and they go nonstop while they're there for 3 months, and then they take them to a place in Africa. Like right now, I think there's some crusades going on in Nigeria right now. I want to say Uganda. So as of right now, and there's all these students that graduated that are there helping, or that are doing them. So it's a neat thing to see. I'm blown away every season, every semester. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's incredible. So that's what's in Florida. It's in Orlando.
So your husband is helping to lead this up.
Yes, he is. He
Wow.
coordinates a lot of it, and trains them up, and if they're ready they'll graduate, and if they're not, they'll not graduate. So
Okay, that's intense.
it is very, very intense.
But
And
but the harvest is ready right now, and that
yes,
is such a necessary skill to be learning. So
it
if
is.
your
And
husband is teaching the leaders to do this, that's remarkable.
yes, and
What a gift.
they get like teachers, evangelists from all over too, to come in and pour into them. So it's really set up very amazing. And they have Eric Gilmore that comes in, and he does all the like more teaches them about prayer, like how to get in the presence of God. So they have that piece. And then they have, you know, just there's like an evangelist that comes in from Iraq that comes in and pours into them. And there's just different people from all over that just have just these stories of just how God,
Oh yeah.
did just beautiful things. And in these people, it's incredible.
And we need to hear the stories. It's the,
Yeah, there's a
it's the
lot.
stories that builds our faith,
Yes.
and just if he does it for one, he'll do it again. So we
No.
need the stories. Yeah. So with that, so we can hear about your story because it's quite incredible.
Yeah, it is. He really saved my life. And I always use the title of I cried out and he saved me, because that's exactly what he did. And I look back often and I'm like, I just cannot believe where I came from. And then I'm here. And then around all these incredible men and women of God that I watched on TV or read their book. And I'm like going, I'm sitting right next to them. This blows me away. I always think, I'm like, God, why did you do this? Like, I don't understand, but I'm putting the pieces together slowly over this is our 14th year. And for me in ministry, my husband's been doing it a lot longer than me. So,
But he's
um,
positioned you.
yeah,
Yes, he has. He
he
has.
helps me
So
through
where
this.
did your story start then, Ashley?
Well, I'm from Texas, and I was, born and raised in a good home, not so much Christian, godly or anything like that. They just, they try to do the best they could with what they had. Big family, and just like you say it's a normal childhood, but there's a lot of trauma. There was a lot of like, my mom and dad being hurt. So out of, that saying, hurting people hurt people. And it's true. They don't know how to love you like they should, even though they don't think they're not like saying, I don't want to love you or anything like that. They just don't know how. Cause once you're wounded, you take it out on each other or whatever. So I didn't see like a great marriage example or anything like that. So, as anybody that grows up in like a hateful or just not a loving household, I think at 15 I just was like, I just don't care anymore. I don't want any part of this. So I've developed a lot of hate inside of me, and from then on it was this effect, this domino effect. I got married, or actually wound up getting pregnant at 15 and had my son at 16. But the choice was that my father was like, well, either you have an abortion or you marry this guy. So he was already 18. So I didn't want to send him to jail or prison because that's what my dad was saying. So I wound up
Oh,
getting
wow.
married. And by the time I was 18, I was already, divorced. Because I mean, who is ready to get married at that age? So it was very traumatizing. And
Did you
so
stay in school?
I actually, you know what? I did stay in school, and there was some things that really there's a lot of mean, ugly people, and they were very hateful to me. So I wound up getting out. I dropped out of high school, but that's another part of my story. I wound up getting my GED and all that stuff. So I went to college, and so but anyway, so yeah, I was already down a bad path during those times, and um 18 just ran away from God. I actually I went to an Assembly of God church, and I was from Alvin, Texas, and I tried to give my life to Jesus and didn't know what I was doing. And, I was trying to get my life ready, but it was just this. It was like a spiral downfall every single time. I would get picked up and then I'll fall back down. So that's pretty much where it all started. And then my family decided, they're like, okay, well, we're going to move to Austin, which is a little bit, I think it's like northern of where I was from. And my parents got a job and there. So I wound up going there, and it got worse for me. I mean, it literally
Oh,
got worse for me. Yes. So
okay.
they were trying to help me, but I just was like being so stubborn. And I was like, still drinking, partying, staying up all night, just doing what I wanted. And just it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So I was like, oh my gosh, like my life is just it's not working. So, I made another mistake. I was like, I was at a restaurant, and there was this one empty chair, and I get up there and I sit next to this guy, and he wanted to be a firefighter and all this stuff. And I made a bad mistake. I wind up, marrying him. Six weeks later, I'm divorcing him because I'm like,
Oh,
I cannot do this. I cannot do this. It was a mistake. And so and I'm not saved during this time. So I don't know anything. I don't know what's right and wrong. And I actually wound up leaving him for what I thought was the best decision I ever made, was a drug dealer. And at the time, I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was like, I ran away from my situation. I don't even think I ever seen him again. It was just quick, easy, done, out. I don't think I never talked to him again.
it just kind
So
of a blur.
yeah, it was a bad blur. I don't even know. I feel like sometimes I talk about this and I'm like, oh, why did I do this stuff? Oh, I want to run away. I don't want to talk about it. But so I made that was a really bad mistake, because it was just me running from a situation, trying to get out of it, trying to feel love, trying to fill a void in my heart, this emptiness, this loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And I wind up getting pregnant, and this is where my life kind of pivoted a little bit. And
So this
the
is with the drug dealer boyfriend.
drug dealer. So um, I just kind of just was just so lost, so broken. And I was so like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to make another mistake. I'm going to have to marry this guy because I want my son to have a father and blah, 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 But I knew, like, I always had a feeling that the Lord was always with me, because I always had that scripture, and I memorized one scripture, and it was Proverbs 3:5-7. It was trust in the Lord with all your heart. And I was like, okay, so that was like the only thing I ever memorized. And it was always there. And it always reminded me, trust, trust, trust. So when I got pregnant, I didn't know that the baby was anything was going to be wrong or anything like that. But I had a feeling in my heart that something was wrong with his heart. And I would be so like, it's almost like you just knew. And it was a weird feeling. Like, and I almost feel like sometimes I'm like, should I have been the one praying against that, or was God showing me? Because it's kind of confusing,
Like
you know?
you're being prepared.
Yes. And so I just had a feeling, but every test I took, he was healthy and everything like that. So on March 23rd, 2009, I go in to have a C-section because everything was planned. And whenever I'm, they're getting the baby out, they're freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, he's not breathing. He's born blue. And I'm going, what does this mean? Like, and they kind of like numbed me in my mind. Like, I don't know what all was being going on, because they didn't even know. And they were like, we have got to take this baby to the NICU, try to see what's wrong. And from there, I mean, I'm in Bryan College Station, Texas, and they have to life flight him to Texas Children in Houston, which is one of the best like hospitals for children. So I'm having to stay back because I can't go anywhere for 3 days because I had a C-section. I had a surgery. They didn't want me to do anything. So I'm like traumatized by seeing this baby hooked up to all these machines I've never seen before in my life. And he's like literally fighting for his life. And they life flight him to another hospital where I can't even be at. None of my family could even be at because they had to stay with me. So I'm like
And
devastated.
how old is your other child at this point?
So at this time, I believe Chris was probably like, he was probably 7. So yeah, I had to get him. He was with my sister at that time, during that time, because he was still in school. So I didn't want him to miss so much and all that. So she was helping me with him. And then my parents came in when all this happened. And it was very sad because like, it was like a happy family moment. Everybody was there to see the baby. And then all of a sudden, it's like, everybody was just, what is going on? You don't know if he's going to die, because they're saying he was going to die if he did not get this certain medication inside of his system. And Texas Children was the only place that had it. So he gets over there, I'm staying back. So just imagine that you're just like a basket case, and you get the doctor coming in, and he's like, you know what, I am so sorry that I did not catch this. And it wind up being, it's a heart defect called Tetralogy of Fallot, which means you have the 4 chambers of the heart, but it's the aorta, I think, that connects to the lung, the left lung, it does not, it doesn't open.
Okay.
So it's really, I mean, I could probably even maybe give you some information on if someone watches this and they're like, oh my gosh, this is what my child was diagnosed with. You don't hear about it very much. And so, and it's a lot of babies, they wind up growing out of it. But my child, he had so many issues. Like, you go in, you have this surgery, and they put like a stent in. It's called a BT shunt. And they go in, they put the stent in. Well, when I found out he had to have all that done, I'm finally there at the hospital. But after he gets back from the surgery, he's laying and they've sedate him so he doesn't move. So, and he's breathing fine. But all of a sudden, he just turns like this pale color. Like, I was like, he's going to die. And the nurses told me, do not pick him up, don't do anything. But inside of me, I just was like, I got to hold this baby. And so I really do. I pick him up and, like this. And I just felt like this coldness, like death. And all of a sudden, like all these doctors are coming in and they're like, alarms are going off. They're like, he has got to go in to open heart surgery right now because the stent failed. So the blood flow, he was losing oxygen.
Wow.
So he goes in, and it was an 8-hour surgery, and it was intense because like their little
Oh my
heart
gosh.
so tiny, and
Oh yeah.
he had the open heart surgery, and they go in, replace a valve, and it really,
Wow.
it saved his life. And I remember just like there's moments in my life, like I'm like, there's like pictures. I remember like no mom wants to, or anybody, when you don't want to see your child, you don't want to give up your child and trust someone. It's kind of like whenever you've never been on an airplane before and you're trusting the pilot to get you to your destination.
Mhm.
And that's also a very scary situation. that's how I felt about my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do nothing about this. And I hit the floor on my knees, just like, God, where are you in this situation? And and through all of this, I mean, because I was at the hospital constantly, I was having to stay at Ronald McDonald houses,
Yeah.
didn't know if he was going to make it through the night. I would get phone calls like, from nurses like, hey, he developed, a blood clot in his leg. We're going to have to there. This may not, he may not make it. And I would rush down in there. And then when I would get there, they would be like, we don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it's just, he's okay. And I'm like, what is this?
Oh,
So
wow.
so he finally, and being in there, like you really get a heart for people because it's like you see sick children, you see children all over, babies, little babies, premature babies. Not only that, you're at a cancer hospital, and then you're seeing all these little kids fighting for their lives. And it's just a whole nother world that we do not see today. Like you don't see it when you go to the grocery store. I mean, you might see some things, you don't see it whenever you're at the mall. You don't see
No,
these little
no.
kids. It's awful. And I love that hospital because they do make it special for everywhere you go in there. It's special for the kids. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but you develop these new passions and you feel so much compassion for other people. And, so at four
And that
months,
that's
yeah,
another example of we never know what someone's going through.
we
It could
never
it
know.
could be the mom behind us in line somewhere. We don't know what they're going
Exactly.
through.
And, we're also good about just smiling through things or, and not wanting us to go there and, through, anybody like asking questions or anything, but God does see these things. And I'm thankful during this time. I mean, I had a pastor come reach out to me and pray for me during this time, but it just did not click. It just was not working. Like I knew God was real, but I thought I was right with him and all this stuff. And at 4 months old, with Shane being on so much medications, he developed where he would just constantly cry, 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 cry nonstop. And they did brain scans, they did everything. His heart was fine, and everything was fine with him. So the only thing they could rule out was maybe he was having withdrawals from all the medication he was on because he was having to be on
Oh,
so much like pain medication.
pain meds, yeah.
Yes. So then they started him on, I think it was methadone. And then like they give him little bitty amounts of it to calm him down because he would not stop crying. So at 4 months old, he gets released and he's diagnosed, with colic and all this stuff. And it was just, he gets released, but he goes to another hospital. Then we have to closer to home. And then we're having to, you know, pray for a miracle for him to get the GI tube out and be able to drink a bottle, be able to hold stuff down. So he gets to go home like at maybe 6 months old.
Wow.
And then we get all these nurses, physical trainers, people that come to our house and they
Therapy
help
and stuff.
therapy and help him, develop. He wasn't rolling over. He was just like a newborn baby, basically. He didn't do anything because he's been hospitalized for so long. And we're all just a mess. My family, we're all a wreck trying,
You'd be
rotating.
exhausted,
Yeah, and because all he
really.
did was cry, cry, cry. I mean, we could
Yeah.
not get him to stop crying. I went to doctor, and nobody was like, "Yeah, this is what colic does." Get a car seat and put him on top of the washer. It'll soothe his stomach. And I'm like, "This is not working," but I'm a wreck,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
And so during all of that, I started getting depressed. I was like, I cannot function in life right now. So I got on antidepressants, and then I started since my I had a C-section, I got bad on pain medication, like really strong pain medication. And I was like, oh, well, I'll take this and I feel fine. Like I can deal with myself. And then it just got worse and worse where I was taking so many pain medications just to fill that void and be okay. And then I didn't realize I would start getting addicted to something. I mean, I didn't know that. And at night when Shane was 9 months old, his therapist came to me. She's like, his head is getting, because they did measurements each week. And she's like, his head is just getting bigger and bigger. And I couldn't see it
Hmm.
because I was like, I
Well, you're
assumed
there all
every
the time. Yeah.
yeah. And so they're like, you need to take him into the emergency room. And I'm like, okay. So I go take him to the emergency room. He's admitted immediately and he develops hydrocephalus, which is the water on the brain. So they had to go in immediately and do a surgery on his brain. They put it's called a VP shunt, and they drill a hole in the cranium. And then there's a tube that goes from the brain to the stomach. And basically the fluid, it's the fluid that has to stay in your body. I don't know. God is very amazing how he designed our bodies. I don't understand all this, but his ventricles right here were not working. So he had to have this tube, and immediately his head, the swelling stops. So this child has been through some stuff. He's been through all kinds of things, and I've been through it. So the whole time while he's crying, I'm thinking, now that I look back, I'm like, he was showing us that he was uncomfortable, because that's what happens. That's all the babies do when they have hydrocephalus, is cry. But how did he survive this?
Right.
Because with fluid on the brain, it's very dangerous, and it can hurt you. Like, it's life and death. But I'm like, God kept his hand on him the whole time. Like, this is miraculous anyway, just speaking about it.
Yeah, it is. So he likely has a high calling for something.
He does. And I'll share with all this, because now he's 14. So, but anyways, through that journey, I knew that I had to get out of my situation. It was a bad situation. And, I was addicted to pills. I had this baby, I had a son, and I was like, I did not know what to do, but I wanted out of my situation. And things just led up. It was a Christmas Eve night, I thought, or day. And I thought that, I was getting my prescription refilled, because I thought in my mind that the doctor called me the day before, reminded me of the appointment. So I go to the doctor's office and the door is locked, and I'm going, oh my God, no, I need these pills. And then I'm going, how is this happening? And I get back in my car and I start realizing I have a problem. Like, I'm addicted to pills and I don't know what to do. And so I'm crying. I'm driving down the road, and I get on this dirt road. I get out of my car and I just say, God, if you're real, I need help. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, and that's it. That's all I said. No lightning bolt, no falling to the ground or having this major encounter. But at that moment, I didn't know at the time, but God heard me, and he started leading my life, like, arranging, there, like, I knew I needed a job. So I was like, I went to several different places, applied. And I went to this place called the Rockdale Roadhouse, and it was like a steak place, like a truck stop kind of thing, where, because you're on the
Yes.
main highway. And
Restaurant.
yeah. And they're like, no, we're not hiring. And I was like, okay, great. So I go home. And then that night they called me. They said someone didn't show up for their evening shift. Can you come in? And I'm like, sure, I'll come in. And I came in, I made like $175. And to me, I was like, this is exactly where God wants me, because I can take care of my family. If I work 4 days a week or whatever, I can do this. Well, I went back, I mean, that night, and the manager was like, well, we don't have any shifts available except for the morning shift. Can you do it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so early, getting up 2 boys and, making arrangements for the baby. And, my sister lived in like 10 minutes, in another town down the road. And so she agreed to watch them. And so everything worked out, and everything was working out. And so it was about 3 or 4 days later, after I started the job, I was a pastor. Small towns, they have like those little jars where they say, help this child, and give like give what you can. So I have that all over the town, because it's a small town. And so a pastor, I was waiting for their, doing their breakfast in the morning and pouring their coffee, and he was like, hey, we're praying for your son. And I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, everybody's praying for my son. And so I was just like, okay, fine. And then I went to another table and I poured this man's coffee, and as I was pouring it, he said, God's going to heal your son. And I was like, well, who are you? Because I don't know you. It's a small town. Everyone knows each other. And I was like, you come from I don't even know, because you come from somewhere and no one knows who you are. And he just kept coming back every day, and he was telling me like Jesus loved me and had a plan for my life, and he had a plan for my son. And I was just like, who are you? Are you like a homeless guy? Do you have a mom? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking all these questions. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why is he telling me that Jesus has a plan for me? And I would call my mom and my sisters, and I'd be like, I think an angel came into the restaurant telling me that, I, that he had a plan for my life, or whatever that God did. And they would think I'm crazy. And then it just kept, every single day, just like a reminder he was there. And one day he got very serious with me. He was like, you know what? God told me that you're with a drug dealer, and you're trying to get out of your situation, and you don't know how, and you're addicted to all these pills. And I was like, well, it blew me away, because I was like, well, I do take pills, but I only take 2 a day, and blah, blah, blah. So I remember just going behind a Coke machine and going, who is this? Like,
Yeah.
told me everything I ever did. And I was like, something is just crazy wrong with him. And as I was checking him out that day, at the register, he hands me a card, and it says like he was part of the ministry, and that he helps people and all this stuff. And if I ever needed help to call him, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So that night I'm leaving work, and I go to just down the road just to drive. And I started feeling very bad about myself, and started like almost like thinking I was going to die, panic, and all I wanted to do was get back home. And I was just freaking myself out. And it was actually my son, it was his first birthday, because they said that the doctors were like, well, he's not going to make it past 1. So it was on March 23, 2010. I'm going back home, and I'm, about to celebrate his birthday, and I'm just all in this fear and all this panic. I'm about to die. I feel bad about everything I ever did. And the only thing I knew was to call him, because he said that he could help me. And I called him up, and I was like, look, I don't know what is wrong with me, but everything I've ever done, I feel bad about. I feel like I'm about to die. And, I need help. I don't know what to do. And he's like, this is what you need to do. He's like, you need to give your life to Jesus, and you need to repent right now. And I'm going, repent? What does that even mean? And that's really all it took for me. And I ran to my bathroom, and, I could tell you, I'm in the projects, single mom. I ran to this bathroom. It's tiny. And I get on my floor. There's a brown piece of carpet. I lay there, or I get there. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Jesus. I've made a mess of my life. I don't know what to do. And this makes me tear up, because it didn't take long. The presence of God entered into my bathroom, and the love of God was there. And I never felt that before. And it changed my life instantly. It was an encounter with God that I will never forget. And no one has ever fulfilled that inside of me. So at that moment, I'm going, oh my gosh, God is so real. And it freaked me out so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like streams of, I don't even know, glory. I don't know. But I got up, and I was changed. I was changed. And I look around me, and it looks like all this darkness was just revealed. Like, the devil is after you. So
it was like a veil, and you could see color, that kind of thing.
yeah, like it was literally like black and white to color. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. And life was there. I mean, like I was able to see the trees and the birds. I could hear everything, and it was just so beautiful. And I never, when you're bound up, you don't hear those things. You just hear, when can I think about myself? When can I get this next thing? When can I make myself feel better? And you don't look around you and think about like the people you've hurt, or you just don't. And so I was instantly changed, and I was so excited that I knew that the devil, I was like, he was real, and it wasn't me thinking I was crazy. So I started that, and I just like, I'm getting this guy out of my life. He's done. I'm not getting the fall for anything anymore, and I'm done. And that's what really took place, is God really saved my life, and he healed my son, which is incredible, because March 23rd, 2009, he was born. It was the worst day of my life. And then the first birthday, I get saved, and Shane makes it to his first birthday. So really, it's crazy, but it's mine and Shane's birthdays, because I was born again, I'm saved, and he's saved, and he was healed. He was rolling over. He was doing everything that they said he couldn't do. And then all of a sudden, he's able to do everything now. So it's just, it was crazy, incredible. I don't even understand all of it, but he's a big part of this whole thing. And just to say too, the guy at the restaurant, it's crazy, but at the time I did not know this, but that's Levi telling me about Jesus, telling me that God had a plan for me. And it was not kind of this love connection 101. It was really like he was burdened. You can hear, he'll tell the story too, that he was burdened with me. He couldn't stop. Like, this girl needs help. This girl really is in a bad situation. And he was so burdened that he couldn't sleep. He's like, she just needs Jesus. And we didn't know we were going to fall in love with each other. But it's beautiful now. We've been married. It'll be our 14th year. And so it's amazing that God even set that up, because we've been through a lot of leaps and bounds and through all of this, because it's been a very difficult situation to navigate. But Shane, it's funny, because this year he's actually got to be a part of CFAN, like their fire camp. He's on fire for God, and he prays for people. It's just I never thought that, I knew Shane would be used by this whole thing, but this year he really has sparked up. Like, God has burdened him with people and passion. He has so much passion and compassion for people, it's amazing, and he's doing amazing. So
Well, and
he's really more
he had a
smaller than
heart.
me.
He would have a heart for his generation.
Yes, and that's actually what it is. He
Yeah.
want that. That's what it is that he's burdened with, and it's beautiful to see what God did in that, and out of a bad situation, He can make a good thing happen. And we had to go through a lot. We had to go through a major battle, custody battle. It was awful. That's
Oh,
like part three of my story. Still going through some things, but um, lots of attorneys, lots of investigators. We had to go through a lot of stuff, but it's just part of all of it. But yeah, it's beautiful to see the beauty of God in it, and even through everything I've gone through, I will never forget that encounter with God ever. Then I always go back to that because I'm like, God, I know you're real. And sometimes you'll go through seasons where you don't feel His presence as much, or He might have you in the Word more to be get your foundation stronger. He does things a little bit differently sometimes. It's not always the same, and I think we have to learn that to get stronger in Him in ways. But yeah,
yeah.
it's incredible what He did in taking a girl from a small town in Texas and did what He did and transformed my life.
Wow. Oh,
There's so much to it, so much to it, so much more. But those are some of the big things.
those are big things.
Yeah.
But just like God's faithfulness, and he knew what he'd already planted in you when you were born.
Yeah.
And it was just the journey to get you there.
Yeah. That's exactly like what He's been really speaking to me too, is, He already know, even for when I minister to people or just encourage someone, I'm like, He already knew what your plan was when you were created. So it's just, He blows me away. That's why I'm like, I love sharing the gospel, because I'm like, He's so real. Wake up, people, wake up. He is so real, and He is so loving.
Do you have something, like one thing that you could share with people to just bring hope and encouragement? There's a
Yeah.
lot going on right now for a lot of
Oh, yeah.
people. So is there one message in particular that you could just release?
Yeah, I would say that do not your faith be wavered. I mean, you have to stand in the storm,
Mhm.
and chaos will be all around you all the time, but you have to know that if you stay in the peace of God, He will work everything out. And at the moment, it could be like there's no hope here. But if don't let your faith be wavered, because that's how the enemy really can come to you and throw you off. And it could throw you off like it could like destroy your entire life. Creep the sin creep in back in, or your identity will be confused. But if you don't let your faith be wavered, and your foundation be very strong, you can survive it, and you can get through anything with God.
Yeah, and to not necessarily listen to the lies that are
Yes.
yakking at us.
Oh yeah.
You
It
know,
happens to me. Like, I'm thankful that I have a husband that, can be like, no, this is not, you know, you shouldn't be thinking this. You shouldn't be, that's a lie from the enemy. So it's good, be vulnerable where you can tell someone like that you trust and love, and be like, look, I'm really going through something. Like, help
yeah.
me, pray for me. Don't let pride or stubbornness get you to where you don't need anybody, because we do. We need
Oh,
people.
we definitely do. Yeah. Well, he created us for community.
Yes, He did. And
No,
sometimes the biggest lie is don't tell nobody what you're going through, but we
exactly.
have to.
Yeah. Yeah. We're well, and just when we share a story, when you share your story with me, your story is with me.
No. No.
So, but that's how he created us, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
exactly.
so my heart will open up to your story.
Yes,
That's
amen.
just how he creates us. So yeah, we are community, and it's beautiful how he's just done that. We do
Yes,
need each other.
we really do.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to link arms together.
Yeah. Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's beautiful how, what he's doing, and you're on a international scale. So it's quite a ministry that you have to support your husband, just
Yeah.
I mean, supporting him in prayer, but your family is really involved in healing the nations with
Yeah.
the gospel. So yeah, sharing the love.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep that close to my heart. That means a lot. And I really appreciate you. I love what you're doing. And I know that God is opening up so much more for you to do. And it's beautiful. I love all the stories. Oh my gosh. You all have to tune into these. They're very good.
It's a yeah, God, yeah, there's a lot of really beautiful women who have shared some incredible testimonies of God's love. So,
Yes.
and
We need it.
and
We
he
need it in the
does,
broken world.
yeah, yeah, it's good. Thanks again, and
Thank you.
we'll talk to you soon to hear the rest of your story.
Yes, I can't wait. Okay.
And for the people who are listening, if you haven't yet subscribed, love you to join us there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.